Happy Halloween. I am Alala, Umbayala. I am Alala, Umbalala. I am Alala, Umbayala. I am Alala.
Welcome back to McNulty's Book Corral. And since it's a month of Halloween terrors and thrills and chills, I thought that I would mention Matheson. That's right, Richard Matheson, 1926, 2013. There were two collections put out by Tor a number of years back that collect a lot of his short fiction. These are tales of terror and suspense that I think are perfect for Halloween. The first of these would be Duel, Terror Stories by Richard Matheson. Great book to have, published by Tor. Let's see, when did they publish this? 2003. Wow, this goes back a little further than I thought. I'm sure there are collections on the market today still from Richard Matheson. This includes the famous Duel, which was made into the film that Steven Spielberg debuted with, and many other classic tales are included here. If I can get to the contents page, there is no contents page. Little Girl Lost, Street, Third from the Sun. These are all included here. So these are very famous stories by Richard Matheson. So this was, oh, here it is. So When the Waker Sleeps, Born of Man and Woman, Brother of the Machine, Death Ship, Little Girl Lost, I mentioned that, One for the Books, and so on. These were stories that he published in the pulp magazines in the 50s. Early 1950s, and great fun to read. The other one that they put out are horror stories. So, I'm sorry, for the Duel, Terror Stories, you have an appreciation by Ray Bradbury at the beginning. For Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, these are horror stories by Richard Matheson, and Stephen King does the introduction on this. And this is probably about the same era, I would say early 2002. Okay. And this includes, obviously, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet was the famous episode on The Twilight Zone, starring Mr. Ego himself, William Shatner, fine actor, bit of a public egomaniac, but still good to look at. Stories in here include Dress of White Silk, Blood Sun, Through Channels, Witch War, Madhouse, Disappearing Act, Long Distance Call, which is one that I really like in here, Slaughterhouse with Straw, Dance of the Dead, and The Children of Noah. I did a vintage paperback where some of these stories were in that as well. I think it was called Shock. So there's a previous episode where some of these were mentioned. Richard Matheson, obviously his novels I Am Legend and Hell House are two of my favorites. I think Hell House is one of the all-time great horror novels ever written. But for now, let's just talk about these. You know, these two here. We'll have a pop-up. Great collection of stories by Richard Matheson, the great Richard Matheson. You have to have a Shrinking Man in your library, too, along with this stuff, right? I'm sure you do. You people know who I'm talking about. Nobody quite like him. So I wanted to give a nod for the Halloween season to the late, great Richard Matheson. And I know you're going to add these books to your library if you don't have them. Meanwhile, stay well, and I will see you along the dusty trail.